Good morning. Clearly, I forgot to update the title of the book, so it still says the other one, but oh well. Good morning, Grace. The book title is incorrect, but oh well, whatever.
Oh yeah, what are you reading for that?
We're starting the new Land of Stories, book 4.
The Land of Stories.
Book 4.
Every dragons.
Probably, I don't know. I haven't read this book yet. Morning, Liz. I don't know if this one has dragons.
What?
I don't know. We did finish yesterday, Shelley. We did finish the other book yesterday, and today we're starting the new one. I'm really excited to see what characters show up in the first chapter. Very excited. Very excited to see. Especially because I didn't know if you had finished, so I just read on anyways. Oh, good. Yeah, we did finish. We did. We did finish. We did do that. Yes, we did. I need to empty this thing. It is very full. Tiny pods. What, honey?
Tide Pods.
Tiny pods, not Tide Pods. Oh no! Grace, that sounds awful. Ugh. Terrible. She had to get some shots yesterday and she doesn't feel good. That makes sense. Apple cider donuts are not turning out how I wanted them to. What? That is? Yeah, why? What seems to be the trouble with them? Well, maybe Saturday. Farmers market. They put all the fall stuff out. They probably will have them, right? Don't you think? I don't know. It seems logical. Yeah, it seems logical to me. But what's wrong with yours, Shelley? Why are they not turning out? Hey, Wendy.
Cidery?
The batter was way too thin, so I thickened it up, but now I'm worried they're going to be terrible. Oh, well, you don't know yet. Don't say that till you know, right?
I'm worried they're going to be too tasty.
It's a concern. It's a valid concern, honey.
It is.
I see how you would come to that. Can you please go down? Come on. Why are you stuck? Oh, come on. They're stuck. You need to go. Thank you. Jeez, wait. That was a crisis. Yay! We're starting a new book today, Shira. So you're here at the right time. Whoa, look at that perfect cover. Oh my gosh, that was amazing. That's a pretty perfect. You are welcome. Guys, I'm really excited to see who shows up in the Land of Stories this morning. We haven't been with the Land of Stories. Thank you. This mug was a gift from Shira, so that's probably why she's so excited to see me using it. I do use it a lot, actually, though. Shira, I think you haven't been in a couple of book clubs because of the time and everything, but so you might have missed it, but I do use this cup fairly often. But what I was going to say is it's really exciting because we haven't read Land of Stories in 2 books, and so we're going back to old friends. wonder. Mother Goose will be in the first, what do you call it? I almost said episode. I meant chapter. First chapter. Do you think Mother Goose will be there?
Yes.
You think so?
She will be drunk.
She will be drunk. Yeah, probably. I mean, it's up to you, Tressa. I don't know. Maybe.
There is a knife on there.
That was scary.
That was scary.
I didn't like it.
I don't like it either.
In fact, I might have hated it.
Okay.
I'll also be sad if she's not there, Grace. Yeah. Morning, Cindy. We're starting a new book this morning. I don't know how you got that out of that, Tressa. I'm sure my face did some really interesting things, yeah. That was not my favorite moment of the morning.
Fun.
Look at that. 2 perfect cups, babe. I measured right. May have to look for
Out of just the one?
What?
I mean, you had it perfect for 2?
No, you can't fit 2 things in here. You have
Really?
to I just did each individual one.
That's what I was doing when you were gone.
You fit 2 amounts in 1 cup?
Yeah.
How?
It always felt like I had too much, and then I was.
If you fill it, it's too much. I don't ever fill it up.
I
do.
didn't fill it because if you fill it, it goes too high.
Yeah.
Because it foams.
Yeah.
It's larger, but
Yeah.
even not having it that way, it felt like I was always falling out of my coffee cup.
Yeah. I don't believe you.
Oh, jeez.
Well, it is what it is, friends. It is what it is. Okay, we are going to go read Land of Stories. Let's do it. Land of Stories, ahoy. There's stuff on my chair. Move it. Secret boyfriend put it there. Rude. Okay. Yes. It's a perfect day. Nothing's standing in my way. I love coffee. You guys, thank you. I'm glad you like it. I also like my new hair. It's good. Big fan. Most people like you, Grace, who know me well, know that if I know a song that you comment a lyric of, there's a solid chance that I will sing it. I will pray for you, Shelley. Even though I don't believe in God, I will do that for you. All right, you guys. This is the moment. We're bringing back Land of Stories. It's happening! Land of Stories, book 4, starting right now. Becca, you made it just in time. We haven't even started yet. I got the book. It's brand new. I ordered it just for us. I think the Queen of Hearts is going to be in it. Whoa, she's creepy. I don't like her. Maybe Merlin. Could be Merlin over here, right? Captain Hook. Could be Captain Hook, right? Definitely Peter Pan. Yeah, it's a good cover. Tin Man. Cards. You're watching a documentary. Which one? Robin Hood. I agree, Abby. I agree. Completely agree. When I picked up the first Land of Stories book, I had literally no idea that they were going to be this good. I pulled them out of a little library at the park where we take Zoe for a walk. And I was like, well, this is full anyway. I don't know if you guys have heard, but like those people who run those little libraries are always like, please take like books, because they're always just like overrun with books. They get more donations than people take them. Well, see, I wasn't a Gleek. That's the thing. But I saw it in there and I was like, you know, it's free. Why not? I'll read it. Fell heckin' in love. It's so well written. I was not a Glee fan, so I would probably say I like him better as an author than I do as an actor. That's not to say he's not a good actor. I'm sure he is. But like, he's a phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal writer. He's, I mean, like maybe one of the best new writers in the last 10 years, as far as I'm concerned, because it's really well done. There are 2 little libraries around me, but either of them are empty or full of Bibles. Yeah, geez. Ours was always full of Bibles too. But We always found stuff for Zoe in there, and then obviously I found Land of Stories, which changed all of our lives. I believe it, Abby, and he did fantastic at it. I give Chris so much props for these books. I agree, Becca. Religious material should not be allowed in the little libraries because they're for kids. I agree. Anyway, let's read because I'm stoked. Stoked. Oh, look at this, you guys. Look what we got here. We got some kind of fold out situation. So it's like a map, and we got Neverland, Wonderland, Camelot, Sherwood Forest, and the Land of Oz. All things we have not experienced yet in any of the previous books. And there's a little wonky something in the middle, and we're going to read it, okay? It says, the portal potion. With just a few drops of the potion, any written work can turn into a portal to the world it describes. Now, I must warn you about the dangers of entering a fictional world. Number 1, time only exists as long as the story continues. Be sure to leave the book before the story ends, or you may disappear as the story concludes. 2, each world is made of only what the author describes. Do not expect the characters to have any knowledge of our world or the other world. 3, beware of the story's villains. Unlike the people in our world and the other world, most literary villains are created to be heartless and stripped of all morals. So do not expect any mercy that if you cross paths with one. Oh my God, I know exactly what they're doing. Oh my gosh. It's the fairy tales versus the literary tales. That's what this is. Except Camelot shouldn't be in here, but that's neither here nor there. Okay, awesome, Tressa. Number 4, the book you choose to enter will act as your entrance and exit. Be certain that nothing happens to it. It is your only way out. So there is a distinction between fairy tales and literary tales, but I don't understand why Camelot is being included in these, because Camelot is more akin to a myth than a fairy tale or a literary tale. However, Wonderland, Neverland, Land of Oz, and Sherwood Forest all are literary tales. This is very interesting. I'm extremely excited. It's called Beyond the Kingdoms, and I am ready. Wait. Oh, Other Ones by Chris Coffer. I was like, wait, did I go out of order? But no, this one is number 4 for sure, right? Yeah, it has 4 on it. Okay. Number 3 was A Grim Warning, and we're on number 4. Also, the thing about villains reminds me very much of All the Devils Are Here. I believe that. Well, I mean, it fits right in, right? Land of Stories, Beyond the Kingdoms. To my parents, for always loving and supporting me. There wasn't a parenting book in the world that could have prepared you for my eccentricity. I'm sorry for denting the coffee table with my ninja swords. Yes, it was me. Thanks for targeting me with maternity clothing and heads internet. No baby in here, maybe a food baby. That's pretty funny. Targeted. Books are a uniquely portable magic. Stephen King. Prologue. Oh, I'm so excited to be back with these characters, you guys. The Other Son. We're gonna start with my boy. 1845, Copenhagen, Denmark. In the cozy study of his home, Hans Christian Andersen was busy at his writing desk. High upon a tree taller than all the steeples in the land, a lonely bird awoke in her nest. He read aloud as he wrote the first sentence of his newest story. The soft scratches of his quill came to a halt, and the author scratched his head. Wait, why is the bird asleep? He asked himself. Wouldn't she wake at dawn with the other birds? She may appear lazy and unrespectable if not. I want the readers to like her. Hans crumbled up the piece of parchment and tossed it into the pile of previous drafts on the floor. He retrieved a new quill, and hoping a darker and longer feather would rejuvenate his storytelling. Son, S-O-N, not S-U-N, like boy, child. High upon a tree, taller than all the steeples in all the land, a lonely bird was building herself a nest. He stopped himself again. No,
She's building a nest. The readers will wonder if she's about to lay eggs, and then they'll think the story is about an unwed mother. The church will accuse me of alluding to something unholy again. He crumpled it up and tossed it aside with the other attempts. High upon a tree, taller than all the staples in all the land, a lonely little bird searched the ground for worms. Hans covered his eyes and groaned. No, no, no. What am I thinking? I can't start a story like this. If I say the tree is taller than all the steeples, some imbecile will think I'm comparing the tree to God himself and make an unnecessary fuss. The author sighed and tossed his latest effort aside. Being a writer in the 19th century society could get frustrating at times. The grandfather clock near his desk chimed as it struck 6 o'clock. Hans stood for the first time in a few hours. I think it's time for a walk, he said. Hans took his coat and top hat off the rack by the front door and left his home. He was easily recognizable to other pedestrians as he walked down the street. After a quick glance of his prominent nose and thin stature, there was no denying the famed author was among them. Hans politely tipped his hat to those who gawked at him and then hurried away before they bothered him. Eventually, Hans arrived at the Langlein promenade and had a seat on his favorite bench. The ocean water ahead sparkled in the remaining daylight. He took a deep breath of salty air and his mind relaxed for the first time all day. This was Hans' favorite spot to decompress. Whenever his head was filled with too many ideas to concentrate or empty of all imagination, a simple walk to the promenade always took the edge off. If he was lucky, he would find inspiration in the lands and waters to take home, and occasionally, if he was really lucky, the inspiration would find him. Hello, Mr. Andersen, a soft voice said behind him. He looked over his shoulder and was delighted to see an old friend. She wore light blue robes and sparkled like the night sky. She was very warm and welcoming, but a stranger to everyone in Denmark except for Hans. My dear fairy godmother, it is good to see you, Hans said with a large grin. The fairy godmother sat beside him. You as well, she said. You weren't at home, so I figured I would find you here. Are you having trouble writing this evening? Unfortunately so, Hans said. Some days the words flow through me like the Nile, and other days I'm as dry as the Sahara. I'm afraid you've caught me in the middle of a drought, and I'm confident that rain should fall again. I have no doubt, the fairy godmother said. I've actually come to congratulate you. We just heard the news that your fairy tales are being published in other countries. The other fairies and I couldn't be happier. You've been very successful in helping us spread the tales of our world. We are very grateful. I'm the grateful one, Hans said. When you found me as a young man in that terrible school in Elsinore, I was ready to give up writing for good. The stories you gave me to craft as my own inspired me as much as the children they were intended for. I wouldn't have found my way back to storytelling if it weren't for you. You give us too much credit, she said. You know exactly how to adapt our stories for the current times by adding elements of religion. Otherwise, the societies of today might not have embraced them. The Ugly Duckling, the Snow Queen, the Little Mermaid, and other tales would have been forgotten. But you've immortalized them. Speaking of, how are things in the fairy tale world? Hans asked. Very well, the fairy godmother said. We've entered quite the golden age. My darling Cinderella married Prince Chance of the charming kingdom. Princess Sleeping Beauty was finally awoken from the awful sleeping. Her Snow White replaced her evil stepmother as the queen of the northern kingdom. Not since the dragons were extinct has there been so much cause for celebration. But my dear, I asked you the same question almost a decade ago, and that was your answer then, Hans said. Even as a child, I was being told the same stories. The fairy tale world must be frozen in time? If only, she said with a laugh. The world moves much faster than ours here, but one day I'm confident the worlds will move as one. I don't know how or why. I just have faith that they will. They enjoyed the soothing sights and sounds of the promenade. An elderly couple leisurely strolled close to the water. A small dog chased seagulls twice its size. A father and his sons flew a kite nearby, while a mother cradled her newborn daughter. The boys giggled as the breeze blew the kite higher and higher into the air. Hans, the fairy godmother said, can you remember what made you happy when you were a young boy? It didn't take long to remember. Places like this promenade, he said. Why? She asked. It's a place of unlimited possibility, he said. At any moment, anyone or anything could appear. A parade could march through the field. A flock of birds from a tropical land could fly across the skies, or a king from a distant country could sail through the waters on a massive ship. I suppose any child is happiest wherever his imagination is stimulated. Interesting, she said. Hans could tell from the look in her eyes that something was weighing heavily on her mind, and if her question was any indication, it was about a child. Forgive me, Hans said. I've known you for so long, I'm embarrassed to even ask, but do you have children? I do, she said, and smiled at the thought. I have 2 sons. Both are the spitting image of my late husband. John is the oldest. He's a very happy, adventurous child. He's constantly making new friends, finding new places to explore. Everyone's very fond of him back home. The fairy godmother went quiet suddenly. And your other son? Hans asked. As if she had suddenly sprung an emotional leak, all the happiness drained from the fairy godmother's face. Her smile faded, and she looked down at her hands. Well, his name is Lloyd. He's a few years younger than John, and he's very different. I see, Hans said. It was an obvious sore topic. You must forgive me, she said with a long sigh. I can't hide the frustration anymore. My life's work is about providing people with the keys to happiness, but no matter what I do, I can't seem to unlock my sons. He's having a difficult time then, I take it? Hans didn't mean to pry, but he had never seen the fairy godmother so visibly helpless. Yes, although I don't think it's a phase, she said. Once she started on the subject, it was hard to stop, but Hans was eager to hear about it. He put a comforting hand on her shoulder, and the floodgates opened. This may be an awful thing to say about my own child, but when my husband died, I think something broke inside of Lloyd, the fairy godmother confessed. It's as if his ability to be happy died with my husband. I haven't seen him since he was a baby. He likes to be alone. He hates socializing. He barely speaks, and when he does, it's even barely more than a word or so. He couldn't be more different from John. He just seems so miserable. I'm afraid it might last forever. A single tear rolled down the fairy godmother's face, and she retrieved a handkerchief from the pocket of her robes, dabbing at her eyes. Well, there may be something he enjoys, Hans said. Does he have any interests? The fairy godmother had to think about it. Reading, she said with a nod. He reads constantly, especially literature from this world. It's the only thing that appeals to him, although I'm not altogether sure he actually enjoys it. It's the prologue, Tiffany. We barely just started. Hans thought it over. Entertaining children had always been his strong suit, not fixing them. He imagined himself in Lloyd's shoes and thought of something that might get a rise out of him. Well, perhaps reading isn't enough, he said, and his face lit up with a grin. If books are what interests him, maybe that's a way to expand the passion. What do you mean? Hans explained. Oh, when I was an up-and-coming writer, I was given a grant by the Danish king to travel across Europe. I traveled all over Scandinavia, through Italy and Switzerland, to England and back again. I can't describe in words how exhilarating it was to see with my own eyes all the places that I had read about. Words never did justice to the wonders that I saw. It left a smile on my heart. The fairy godmother wasn't sure what he was getting at. Well, John loves this world too, but Lloyd refuses to leave his room whenever I invite him to come along. Hans raised a finger. Then try inviting him to a world that does appeal to him, he suggested. What if you took him into the stories in one of his books? He may only mildly be interested in what he reads, but if he actually saw the place he spends so much time reading about, I'm sure you'd get that smile back. The fairy godmother looked out at the sea as if to answer a long-standing mystery. But am I capable of such magic? She asked, almost in a trance. Can I travel between realms that already exist? I can travel between realms that already exist, but could I create realms? How could I bring the written word to life? Hans looked around the promenade to make sure only the fairy godmother could hear what he was about to say. Maybe you won't have to create anything, he said. What if every story ever told was just a realm waiting to be discovered? Perhaps happiness isn't the only thing you were meant to provide keys for. The thought was so enticing and so exciting. The fairy godmother was almost afraid of its potential. What if she could travel into any story as easily as the fairy tale world in the other world? What if she had the power to turn any book into a portal? It's getting late, Hans said, as the ever-darkening skies, It's getting late, Hans said, about the ever-darkening skies around them. Would you like to join me for a cup of tea? It's the old fairy godmother. This is in the 1800s. She's with Hans Christian Andersen right now. This conversation reminds me so much of another story I've been working on called The Story of a He looked back at the fairy godmother, but she had vanished into the air. Hans couldn't help but laugh at her sudden departure. His idea must have been good if she couldn't wait another moment to explore it. The following weeks were the busiest of the fairy godmother's life. She locked herself inside her chamber at the fairy palace and worked around the clock. As if she were inventing a new recipe, she searched for components to carefully combine that would make Hans' idea a reality. She read all the books of spells, books of potions, and books of enchantment in her possession. She studied dark magic, white magic, and history of magic. She slowly patched her creation together, one element at a time. Like sewing a quilt, she kept a journal of her progress, frequently referencing it so she didn't make the same mistake twice. Finally, after she discovered the correct ingredients and stirred them together and let the mixture sit under moonlight for a fortnight, her concoction was complete. She poured the potion into a small blue bottle. As with any experiment, the fairy godmother needed a good test subject. She retrieved Mary Shelley's Frankenstein from the bookshelf and placed it on the floor. She opened it to the first page and cautiously poured 3 drops of the potion onto it, 1 drop at a time. As soon as the 3rd drop made contact, the book illuminated like a gigantic spotlight. A bright beam of white light shined out of the book, and since there was no ceiling, it shined directly into the night sky. It could be seen miles away from the palace. The fairy godmother was so eager to see if the potion had worked, she lost all sense of caution. She clutched her wand and stepped straight into the beam of light. She was no longer standing in her chamber at the fairy palace, but in a world of words. Everywhere she looked, she saw written text spinning, bouncing, and hovering all around her. The fairy godmother thought that she recognized some of the words from familiar passages in books. She watched in amazement as the words spread out into a vast space surrounding her. They morphed into the shapes of objects that they were describing and gained texture, and soon they created a world around her. She was now standing in a dark forest of spindly trees. The Frankenstein book and the beam of light emitting from it were the only thing that had traveled with her into the particular forest. She leaned back through the light and saw her chambers on the other side. The beam was a portal. She only hoped it had taken her where she intended. A flash of light across the dark sky made her jump. She could only make out the silhouette of a massive Gothic structure with several towers on top of a nearby hill. Her heart raced at the sight of it. My word, the fairy godmother gasped. It's Frankenstein's castle. The potion worked. I've traveled into a book. She left the world of Frankenstein and returned to her own chambers through the beam. She closed the illuminating book on the floor with her foot, and the light vanished, restoring the book to its normal state. The fairy godmother could barely contain her excitement. She scooped up the potion bottle and ran down the hall to Lloyd's room, certain the news of her latest invention would excite him. She knocked on the door, a happy beat. "Lloyd, sweetheart," she said, and stepped into her son's bedroom. The room was dark, darker than any other room in the fairy palace, especially at night. The palace was very open, but Lloyd had hung sheets and blankets around his room in lieu of walls for privacy, making it feel like an isolated tent. The fairy godmother's son had shelves of jars full of small rodents, reptiles, and insects. However, they seemed more like prisoners than pets, the way they desperately struggled to find their way out of the containers. His mother picked up a jar and was sad to see a moth had died, the same moth her son had promised to free just a few days before. Lloyd was sitting in his bed reading The Man in the Iron Mask by candlelight. He was a small child, thin, with a plump face and dark hair. He never looked up from reading, even as his mother had a seat at the foot of his bed. "I made you something very special, darling," the fairy godmother said. "I've worked really hard on it, and I think it's going to make you quite happy." Lloyd continued reading and acted like his mother was invisible. She took the book out of his hands, forcing him to pay attention to her. "What if I told you there was a way to travel into your favorite stories?" the fairy godmother teased and showed him the potion bottle. "This is a very powerful potion. I've just created it. With a few drops, we can transform any of your books into a portal. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Wouldn't you love to see all your favorite places and characters in person?" Lloyd was silent as he processed the information. For a brief moment, the fairy godmother could see the intrigue form in his eyes as he looked over the bottle. Her heart soared as she thought a smile would surface on his face at any second. But to her dismay, Lloyd only sighed. "Traveling can be so tired, Mother," Lloyd said, and took his book back. "I'd much rather just stay here and read." His mother's hopes had flown so high only to plummet back to the earth. If this couldn't get a reaction at him, she feared nothing ever would. "Never mind then," she said, and stood to leave his room. "But please let me know if you change your mind." Too heartbroken to sleep, the fairy godmother wandered the halls of the fairy palace until she came to the Hall of Dreams. She pushed open the double doors and stepped into the boundless space and watched the thousands of orbs floating around. Each orb represented someone's dream, and she hoped she could make someone's dream come true before going to bed. An intriguing thought came to her as she looked around. She'd spent too much time guessing how to make her son happy. What if her son's biggest dream was floating around the Hall of Dreams? If she peered into it, maybe she could discover how to help him. The fairy godmother raised her wand and waved it in a quick circle. All the orbs in the Hall of Dreams instantly froze. One large orb in the distance kept moving. It floated toward her and landed in her hands. She peered inside it, anxious to know what her son's dreams looked like. Everything inside was hazy, like it was full of steam or smoke. As the haze cleared, the fairy godmother let out a small scream for what she saw. There was destruction everywhere she looked. Castles and palaces were crumbling to the ground, and villages were on fire. The ground was covered in carcasses of every creature imaginable. It was as if they were looking into the end of the world. In the center of all the chaos, on top of a pile of debris, Lloyd was perched on a throne. He wore a large golden crown on his head. A chilling smile grew across his face as he observed the obliteration around him. In the distance, the fairy godmother saw something that made her skin crawl, and shivers went up and down her spine. It was a freshly dug grave, and her name was engraved on the tombstone. The fairy godmother was sick to her stomach. Now it was clear why she could never make his son happy. His biggest dream was her greatest nightmare. Frankenstein wasn't the only one responsible for creating a monster. That's some dark stuff, you guys. That's way dark. That is way dark. Wait, no, he's the uncle, Tiffany. He's the uncle. Wow. I do too, Amanda. Big time. Like I have chills. He's such a good writer. He's so good. You guys, we're making a portal potion. Yeah, seriously, throw this one out. You need a new kid. We're making a portal potion slime. There's no question that we're doing this. I have it in my head already. I know exactly what I'm making. Like, I read that and I was like, oh, portal potion. It's a slime. Like, duh. Perfect for Halloween. Perfect for a book slime. A portal potion. Yeah. Amazing. He's such a good author, you guys. I mean, just magical. Anyway, I have a lot of work to get done today, so I gotta go, but expect a portal potion later today. I have a pretty good idea of what I want it to look like. Definitely pigmented, definitely shimmery. So good. So good. Love you guys. See you tomorrow for chapter 1. Holy moly. It's so good. I'll see you guys today. Yeah. No, we have After Dark again tonight, but at 5 o'clock tonight rather than 6 because it's the earlier one for the other coast. We have just as many After Darks to do today as we did yesterday. We have a whole bunch. Cindy, if you're still in here, I'm pretty sure you're on the list for tonight. So see you guys later.